All right, listen up everyone, and let's jump right into this explainer. Welcome new recruits. Consider this your official orientation. Today, we are going to completely decode the profound metaphysical systems you absolutely must master if you want to survive, let alone thrive as a dream knight. You're stepping into a reality that is, quite frankly, infinitely larger than you previously thought, and understanding your exact place within it, well, that's your first and arguably your most vital weapon.
Here is what's on the docket for today's training syllabus. We're running through the Awakening, Forging Your Sigil, the 7 classes, the Sagittarius system, Divine Heraldry, and capping it all off with the Celestial Choirs.
Starting off with Phase 1, the Dream Knight's Awakening.
Okay, let's talk about the Seal of Endoregin. You'll also hear this called the Seal of Awakening. Think of it as a massive limiter release. It sharpens your awareness so intensely that you can literally perceive other realities and interdimensional gates. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. To safely look into those realities without being completely destroyed by the sheer mental strain, you have to forge a flawless equilibrium between the light and the darkness inside of you. I'm completely serious. Without that emotional balance, your own power will literally consume you.
So how do you keep that balance? You've got to master Kulmnid, which is the basic elemental seal. It's all about a crazy dichotomy. On one side, you've got the elements of generation: water, wind, earth, light. On the other, the elements of destruction: fire and lightning. And right in the middle, time, acting as a neutral bridge. You have to understand how these seemingly total opposites actually cooperate. I mean, think about it. Fire burns, water cools. Totally contradictory, right? But both are 100% necessary in balanced amounts to sustain life. They even work together to control the intensity of motion and, by extension, how you perceive time itself. It's a massive balancing act.
Now, once you really grasp that balance, that's when you can manifest a sigil. And I need you to understand this intimately. A sigil is not just some cool sword you pick up from the armory. No, it is the actual, physical manifestation of your very identity, and it contains a literal fraction of your guardian force, what a lot of folks call a guardian angel. Your weapon is a living, breathing extension of your own soul, perfectly merged with divine protection.
Which brings us to the actual training progression. Look, you don't just wake up with ultimate cosmic power. Your goal is to evolve your sigil through 3 distinct stages. First up is the dormant state. This is what you use in non-fatal everyday life. Next is the active state, which physically changes based on your elemental affinity. We're talking stuff like water armor or a literal cape of fire. But the ultimate goal? Step 3, the living sigil state. At this point, your sigil develops its own awareness. It stops being a tool you just swing around and actually becomes an autonomous partner protecting you in battle. The absolutely crucial thing here is exactly how you reach that living sigil state. It only happens through an awakening. This is when a knight hits such a profound level of self-comprehension that their psyche willingly fuses with their guardian force. It's a partnership, mutual cooperation. Contrast that with possession. Possession is when some hostile entity violently forces its will onto a human just to pull off an evil scheme. Always remember, true power comes from partnership, never from suffocating control. But I have to give you a stark warning here, recruits. Developing a sigil is a lot like nurturing a child. If you build it with positivity, it becomes a living sigil that has your back. But if you let self-doubt, fear, and toxic negativity infect your training regimen, your sigil is going to mutate into a terrifying, cursed weapon. And no, it won't just look ugly. It will actively inflict debilitating status effects on you. It becomes your enemy. So you must absolutely master daily emotional regulation techniques. Practice grounding yourself so you don't fall into negative emotional cycles, because if you don't, you will literally become your own worst enemy.
Moving on to Phase 2, scaling power in the classes.
So there are 7 distinct classes of sigils, and they scale exponentially in power. The core criteria differentiating them? It's all based on the sheer number of people and the shared realities involved in summoning them. It starts small at the individual class, that's unique just to you, but then it scales up. You've got family bloodlines, tribal cultural heritages, and organizational common goals. It keeps building through national and world classes until you finally hit the universal class. That one can only be used by people who share a completely common reality, like actually possessing an awareness of the dream world itself. Long story short, the more people united under a common truth, the more devastatingly powerful the sigil.
As your tactical skills advance, you'll start unlocking specialized systems like the Sagittarius system. Think of the centaur from mythology, right? The upper body of a man, representing human wisdom, and the lower body of a horse, representing beastly instinct. This system lets you use cryptography to infiltrate enemy lines like a ghost. Let me give you a legendary example. We had some experienced knights acting as rangers who managed to monitor the vital stats of captive allies deep inside an enemy fortress. They essentially orchestrated a covert jail cell party. They systematically fed their captured allies lemonade and boiled eggs that were secretly laced with phoenix tears, a substance the enemy was fatally allergic to. Over 13 days, these knights weaponized their own captives' bloodstreams right under the bad guys' noses. That right there, that is wisdom and instinct perfectly fused.
I absolutely love this concept, by the way. It perfectly captures how heralds operate. Think back to ancient times when a coded message was literally tied to an arrow. Because the arrow delivers the message, the messenger and the message essentially become the same thing. As a knight running this system, you aren't just a mailman delivering a warning. Your very presence, your actions, your successful infiltration, you are the message being sent to the enemy.
And that brings us to Phase 3, Divine Heraldry and the Cosmos.
All right, let's zoom way out to the absolute macro level. As a Dream Knight, you aren't just a grunt on the battlefield, you are a mouthpiece. You're going to learn Divine Heraldry. This is the incredibly complex art of studying ancient prophets, using real linguistics and ethnography to spot hidden patterns. By seeing how ancient blessings or curses are echoing right now in the present, a herald can actually predict current world events. You decode these ancient patterns to give us actionable intelligence, helping humanity prep for or even totally mitigate modern calamities. You aren't speaking for yourself anymore. You act unconditionally in the interest of the Lord who sent you.
But amidst all this cosmic stuff, never forget the battlefield inside your own mind. Because you are united under the banner of Eden, you are a natural-born enemy of the serpent. And that means you are constantly, actively being hunted by something called a shadow stalker. This thing is like a parasitic weed, and it is incredibly drawn to your deepest, darkest secrets. The battle for the human conscience is essentially a massive three-way turf war. You've got your human spirit, your angelic reflection, which is your guardian force trying to guide you, and this shadow stalker doing everything it can to cause your downfall. Let me be clear, the more secrets you hide, the blacker and more terrifying your shadow gets. Being transparent and admitting your faults, that is quite literally your greatest armor.
Now, to really grasp your place in the universe, you need to see how divine grace flows downward through heaven's actual organization. It's broken into 3 hierarchies and 9 choirs. At the very top, the first hierarchy, your seraphim, cherubim, and thrones. They are closest to God, just eternally soaking in His love, wisdom, and steadfastness. They hand that profound knowledge down to the second hierarchy, the dominions, virtues, and powers. These guys apply that wisdom to physically govern the cosmos, manage miracles, and act as heavy-hitting warrior angels keeping universal order. Finally, all that grace filters down to the third hierarchy, principalities, archangels, and angels. These are the beings operating closest to us. They're guiding whole nations, heralding major prophecies, and right at the ground level, your personal guardian angels, fighting in the trenches every single day to defend your soul against temptation.
So as we wrap up this orientation explainer, I really want you to let all of this sink in. We've gone from the micro, balancing water and fire inside your own soul, keeping your emotions in check so your sigil stays a living blessing rather than a curse, all the way up to the macro, understanding the 9 choirs of angels literally moving the stars above your head. Remember, the horizon, that distant line where the sea meets the sky, it represents ultimate choice. The cosmos has handed you the tools, and your guardian force is ready and waiting. So recruit, look inward. Will your sigil be a blessing to this world or a catastrophic curse? The choice is entirely up to you.